Welcome back to WWE Express. Are you a wrestling fan? Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell right so you don't miss our latest updates. We're about to break down a backstage incident that just ignited a civil war within the Bloodline itself. The MFT didn't just confront Jacob Fatu tonight. They sent a message that's going to echo through every faction interaction on Smackdown for weeks to come. And the implications for the entire power structure of WWE might be more significant than you initially realize. Let's talk about what just went down and why this moment matters so much for the future of professional wrestling storytelling. When you've got multiple factions operating within the same brand, with overlapping members, shared history, and competing philosophies, you've got the perfect ingredients for internal conflict. And that's exactly what we're witnessing right now with the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. Jacob Fatu has been on an extraordinary trajectory since his introduction to the main roster. The son of WWE legend Rikishi, nephew of the legendary Anoa'i family members, Jacob carries a legacy that's literally written into his wrestling DNA. But what's made Jacob different from just another family connection is his willingness to embrace a unique character identity. He's got this primal intensity, this almost uncontrollable aggression, and this aura of danger that feels genuinely unpredictable. When Jacob walks down that aisle, you don't know what you're going to get, but you know it's going to be visceral. The Judgment Day, often referred to as the MFT, has established itself as one of the most dominant forces in WWE. Rhea Dominguez has emerged as one of the most credible leaders the company has to offer. Finn Balor brings incredible technical expertise and legitimate main event credibility. And their collective philosophy, their unified vision of dominance and superiority, has made them a genuine powerhouse. But here's what's interesting about a group like that. When you're that successful, that dominant, that unified, you start to attract people who want to be part of something winning. That's when complications arise. The tension between the MFT and Jacob Fatu makes perfect sense from a character perspective. You've got a group that prides itself on control, on strategy, on calculated domination. And you've got Jacob Fatu, who represents raw, unfiltered aggression and unpredictability. Those philosophies are fundamentally at odds. Jacob doesn't need to think about what he's going to do. He just does it. The MFT thinks 3 moves ahead and executes with precision. When those two approaches collide, sparks are inevitable. Now, the fact that this confrontation happened backstage is crucial. Backstage incidents in WWE aren't accidents. They're carefully constructed narratives designed to tell you something about the state of relationships and power dynamics. The MFT brutally destroying Jacob Fatu sends several messages simultaneously. It tells you that the MFT isn't going to tolerate Jacob's independence or his unpredictability. It demonstrates the group's willingness to enforce their will on anyone, including family connections. And it raises questions about Jacob's position within the larger Bloodline structure. Let's think about the Bloodline for a moment. The Bloodline has been one of the most important factions in modern WWE history. It's evolved and transformed multiple times. It's carried main event storylines. It's created some of the most compelling character dynamics in the company. But factions, by their very nature, are unstable. They're built on shared goals and mutual benefit. When those things get questioned, when ambitions start to diverge, that's when you get civil war. Jacob's alignment with the Bloodline and potentially with the Judgment Day creates a fascinating intersection. He's got legitimate family history with the Bloodline. That connection runs deep, generationally and culturally. But the MFT offers something different. They offer a chance to be part of a dominant force that's actively reshaping the landscape of Smackdown. So Jacob's caught between 2 powerful factions, both of which have claims on his loyalty, both of which offer him something valuable. The brutal nature of the MFT's attack on Jacob is important to analyze. This wasn't a warning shot. This wasn't a conversation that escalated. This was a statement of dominance. This was the MFT essentially telling Jacob, and everyone watching, that they're willing to hurt you if you don't fall in line. That's a dangerous play because it creates resentment. It creates the desire for revenge. And it establishes a clear hierarchy where the MFT is on top and everyone else is beneath them. From a storytelling perspective, this opens up incredible narrative possibilities. You could be looking at a prolonged feud between Jacob and the MFT that spans weeks or months. You could be looking at the Bloodline fractioning along different lines, with different members choosing different allegiances. You could be looking at Jacob becoming the perfect disruptive force, the element that the MFT can't predict or control, that threatens their supposed dominance. Here's what makes this angle particularly compelling. Professional wrestling is at its best when it deals with complex character motivations and moral ambiguity. Jacob isn't wrong to resent being told what to do. The MFT isn't wrong to want to maintain their unified power structure. Both perspectives are legitimate. Both have merit. And that's what creates genuinely interesting television. It's not about good guys and bad guys. It's about different philosophies colliding and different wrestlers trying to assert their will on each other and on the Smackdown landscape. The timing of this incident could be significant too. Why did the MFT decide to make their move against Jacob right now? What was Jacob doing that threatened their position or their unity? Was Jacob getting too powerful? Was he becoming too independent? Was he starting to turn other Bloodline members against the MFT? Understanding the context matters because it helps us understand what's really driving this conflict beneath the surface level of physicality. Let's also consider how this affects the broader Smackdown landscape. The brand has multiple power players, multiple factions, multiple storylines all intersecting and competing for attention and resources. When a civil war breaks out within a faction, it creates ripple effects. Other groups smell blood in the water. Wrestlers who were potentially intimidated by the MFT's dominance start looking for opportunities. Allegiances shift. New partnerships form. The entire ecosystem changes. The MFT's strategy here is worth analyzing. If they're trying to establish themselves as the supreme power on SmackDown, attacking Jacob and demonstrating their willingness to brutalize anyone is one way to do it, but it's also the kind of move that could backfire. Jacob's not the type of wrestler who's going to accept this and move on. He's the type who's going to remember it, who's going to look for his moment, and who's going to strike back. The MFT might have just created their own future problem. Jacob's response to this attack is going to be absolutely critical for where this story goes. If he gets revenge quickly, we get one type of narrative. If he bides his time and plans a calculated response, we get something different. If he reaches out to other members of the Bloodline for support, suddenly you've got a larger conflict brewing. If he decides to go solo and prove he doesn't need anyone, that's a different story entirely. WWE's choice about how Jacob responds is going to define the next chapter of SmackDown programming. This is also about establishing credibility and legitimacy for multiple wrestlers simultaneously. The MFT gets to demonstrate that they're a genuine threat, that they're willing to enforce their will physically. Jacob gets to be positioned as someone important enough that the MFT felt the need to deal with him forcefully. And the Bloodline as a whole gets to exist in a state of flux where we're genuinely uncertain about the internal dynamics and future direction. Professional wrestling thrives on this kind of complexity. A simple attack backstage becomes something much larger when you understand the context, the history, the family connections, and the larger faction dynamics at play. Suddenly you're not just watching two groups fight. You're watching the evolution of the entire SmackDown power structure unfold in real time. The MFT's decision to go after Jacob so brutally also says something about their confidence level. They're not worried about repercussions. They're not concerned about other Bloodline members retaliating. They're acting like the undisputed rulers of SmackDown, and they're enforcing that reality through physical dominance. Whether that confidence is justified is going to be tested very soon. What happens next is crucial. WWE has to follow through on the heat this creates. They have to build to something meaningful. The MFT attacking Jacob Fatu isn't just a moment. It's the beginning of a narrative thread that's going to weave through multiple weeks of programming, creating multiple matches, multiple confrontations, and multiple character developments. So we're going to be watching SmackDown very carefully over the coming weeks. We're going to be analyzing every interaction between Jacob and the MFT. We're going to be looking for signs of how other Bloodline members respond to this civil war. We're going to be waiting to see if Jacob gets his revenge and how he executes it. This moment just became the spark that's going to light the entire SmackDown landscape on fire. If you want to stay completely up to date on every major development in WWE, every faction conflict, every character evolution, and every narrative shift that shapes the future of professional wrestling, you absolutely need to subscribe to WWE Express right now. We break down the storytelling that matters. We analyze the psychology behind every angle. We help you understand what's really happening beneath the surface of WWE television. Subscribe to WWE Express today, and never miss a crucial moment in the evolution of professional wrestling. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on WWE Express.